Have you ever been booed for doing the very thing you love most? Imagine pouring your heart into your music, only to have the crowd turn against you for daring to evolve. That's exactly what happened to one of America's most beloved teen idols, a man who helped shape early rock and roll. But instead of walking away, he took that painful night and turned it into something unforgettable. A song that not only silenced his critics, but also redefined his legacy. Keep watching as we uncover how Ricky Nelson's Garden Party became the song that shut down the haters once and for all.
I didn't want to do it at first, and they'd been after me to do one for about 2 years. And I thought, well, there's going to be 22,000 people there, so we can throw in some new songs maybe and everything. But as it turned out, we didn't. We played all old songs, and they just sort of stared at us. And it was a strange experience, really. It was about 6 months ago.
Ricky Nelson was born Eric Hilliard Nelson on May 8, 1940, in Teaneck, New Jersey. He grew up in a show business family. His parents, Ozzie and Harriet Nelson, were already well known through their popular radio and television show, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. Ricky was their younger son, and he had an older brother named David, who would later become a well-known actor. During the years when Ozzie Nelson toured with the Nelson Orchestra, his wife Harriet, who often performed as the band's vocalist, stayed behind in Englewood, New Jersey, to care for their 2 young children, Ricky, who had just been born, and David, who was 2 years old at the time. The family later settled in Tenafly, New Jersey, where they bought a 2-story colonial house and made it their home. Their stay there didn't last long, as they soon moved to Hollywood. Ozzie and Harriet were scheduled to appear on the radio show The Red Skelton Hour during the 1941 to 1942 music season. During this period, Ricky's paternal grandmother in Tenafly continued to care for him and provide support. In November 1941, the Nelsons purchased a Cape Cod-style colonial home in Los Angeles. It quickly became their permanent residence and the starting point of their new life on the West Coast. Ricky moved to Los Angeles in 1942 to join his parents and brother. John Guedel, the producer of The Red Skelton Show, described young Ricky as a boy who was likable yet quiet, thoughtful, and secretive. Ricky was known to be a sensitive child who faced health challenges, particularly severe asthma. To help manage his nighttime asthma symptoms and sleep better, he used a vaporizer that released a tincture of evergreen. When Skelton was drafted into the military in 1944, Guedel came up with the idea for a new radio sitcom, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, designed specifically for Ricky's parents. The first episode aired on October 8, 1944, and received a warm public response. Ozzie, who later became the main writer for the show, drew inspiration from the real-life experiences and everyday challenges of his children. David, then 12, and Ricky, 8, made their first appearance on the show on February 20, 1949, in an episode titled Invitation to Dinner. This marked the beginning of their journey on radio and television, with Ricky as the younger of the 2 brothers. In 1952, the Nelson family appeared in their first film, Here Come the Nelsons. The movie was created to test whether a television version of their family show could succeed. Its success convinced Ozzie that they could successfully move from radio to television. On October 3, 1952, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet premiered on TV. The series continued to air until September 3, 1966, lasting almost 14 years. The show became one of the longest-running sitcoms in television history, securing the Nelson family's place in entertainment history and marking a major milestone in their careers. Ricky received his education at several schools in the Hollywood area, including Gardner Street Public School, Burbank Junior High, and Hollywood High School, where he graduated in 1958 with a B average. As an adult, He admitted that he didn't enjoy school. He found it boring and struggled with early mornings, even though his grades were solid. He also showed strong athletic ability in high school, participating in both football and tennis. Ricky and his brother even performed a trapeze act in an episode of The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet called The Circus, which aired in January 1960. Although Ozzie encouraged him to go to college, Ricky didn't feel it was necessary. By the time he was in high school, he was already earning significant income. At 13, his parents managed his finances, which exceeded $100,000 a year, and placed his earnings into trust accounts. Despite his wealth, his parents gave him only a $50 allowance when he turned 18. When he needed extra money, he collected and returned empty soda bottles to afford small treats like movie tickets. Music fascinated Ricky throughout his teenage years. He was a talented musician who could play the clarinet and drums, and quickly learned the guitar's basic chords. He developed his singing skills by imitating his favorite rockabilly artists from Sun Records, often practicing in the bathtub or the showers at the Los Angeles Tennis Club. Carl Perkins became one of Ricky's biggest musical influences, and he was especially drawn to blue suede shoes, a top 10 hit for Perkins in March 1956. Ricky practiced the song's guitar break repeatedly. At 16, he wanted to impress his girlfriend, Diana Osborne, who was also a big fan of Elvis Presley. Even without a record deal, Ricky confidently told her that he would soon release a record of his own. With his father's help, he signed a one-record deal with Verve Records. His first single, A Teenager's Romance, was released in late April 1957, along with I'm Walkin', a cover of a Fats Domino hit. Both songs were recorded on March 26, 1957, during the same session as You're My One and Only Love. On April 10, 1957, before his record was even released, Ricky made his first television appearance performing Rock and Roll. Around that same time, he performed Blue Moon of Kentucky at Hamilton High School in Los Angeles, thrilling the crowd. He also performed I'm Walkin' while playing drums in an episode of The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet titled Ricky the Drummer. The audience's excitement made it clear that Ricky was destined for fame. When I'm Walkin' was released, it climbed to number 4 on Billboard's Best Sellers in Stores chart, while the B-side, A Teenager's Romance, reached number 2. After the summer break of the TV series in 1957, Nelson began his first road tour, performing at several state and county fairs across Ohio and Wisconsin. He appeared both as an opening act and as the headliner. Later that year, Ozzie helped him leave Verve Records because of payment disputes and instead arranged a 5-year contract with Imperial Records. This new deal gave Ricky more creative control over song choices, cover art, and production. His first release under Imperial, Bebop Baby, received 750,000 advance orders, sold over 1 million copies, and reached number 3 on the charts. His debut album, Ricky, came out in October 1957 and quickly rose to the top of the charts. Because of this success, Nelson's role on The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet grew, and he began ending episodes with musical performances every few weeks. In the summer of 1957, Nelson decided to form his own band. He was frustrated with performing alongside older jazz and country musicians who didn't take rock and roll seriously. His new group included 18-year-old guitarist James Burton, pianist Gene Garf, drummer Richie Frost, and bassist James Kirkland. Together, they worked on Believe What You Say, which was released in 1958. Joe Mathis had previously played lead guitar on several of Nelson's early singles, including Bebop Baby, Stood Up, and Waitin' in School. While recording Poor Little Fool for his second album, Ricky Nelson, 1958, he initially rejected it as a single. However, the song became a massive hit, reaching #1 on Billboard's Hot 100 and selling over 2 million copies. Between 1958 and 1959, Ricky Nelson's chart performance was nearly on par with Elvis Presley's. During that period, Nelson released 12 singles, while Presley released 11. Nelson's first major tour in 1958 brought in impressive weekly earnings. By 1960, the Ricky Nelson International Fan Club had grown to more than 9,000 chapters worldwide. One of the most frightening moments of his career occurred when fans tried to throw themselves under his car, something Nelson later described as one of the most unsettling experiences of his life. Despite the chaos that came with fame, Nelson is recognized for pioneering the use of television as a tool for music promotion, a method that changed the way music was marketed. His father helped produce some of the earliest music videos using creative editing techniques, with Travelin' Man becoming one of the most notable examples. Although his career entered a period of uncertainty by 1967, Nelson continued to make television appearances. He featured on programs such as The Ed Sullivan Show, The Streets of San Francisco, and Quinn Martin's Tales of the Unexpected. During his guest host appearance on Saturday Night Live in 1979, Nelson humorously spoofed his own television persona in a Twilight Zone parody. Around this time, he also had the opportunity to revisit and explore the worlds of several classic sitcoms from the 1950s and early 1960s. Even after his Saturday Night Live appearance, his performance was remembered among the many notable musicians he had worked with. Some of these names include James Burton, Joe Osborne, Alan Polo Harris, Joe Mathis, the Jordanaires, Scotty Moore, and Johnny and Dorsey Burnett. Nelson collaborated with these talented artists throughout his career and was admired for his musicianship. The crisp and punchy sound of Nelson's recordings was partly due to the production work of Bunny Robin and Jimmy Haskell. Their combined expertise contributed greatly to the high quality of his music. Through his successful performances in both rockabilly and ballads, Nelson proved his versatility as an artist. The soft tone of his voice made him especially suited for ballads. While he enjoyed upbeat hits like Believe What You Say and Hello, Mary Lou, his voice was particularly well-matched to slower melodies. Nelson achieved major chart success with songs like Travelin' Man, Poor Little Fool, and Young World, along with other fan favorites such as A Teenager's Romance, Lonesome Town, and Teenage Idol, all of which deeply connected with his audience. These songs helped Nelson gain widespread fame. In addition to his accomplishments in music, he also worked in film and television throughout different stages of his career. He made his film debut in Here Come the Nelsons, 1952. His second film, The Three Young Texans, was released in 1953. His acting career continued to grow, and the 1959 film Rio Bravo, directed by Howard Hawks, is often credited with contributing to its box office success. In this film, Nelson appeared alongside John Wayne and Dean Martin. His film portfolio also includes The Wackiest Ship in the Army, 1960, which starred Jack Lemmon, and Love and Kisses, 1965, directed by his father. Nelson's television work was equally extensive. He made guest appearances on well-known shows such as General Electric Theater, McCloud, The Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew Mysteries, and The Love Boat. He also showed his versatility as both a musician and actor through supporting roles in TV films like 3 on a Date and High School USA, both released in 1983. These were made-for-television movies that further demonstrated his range as an entertainer. When Nelson signed a major contract with Decca Records in 1963, it became a significant turning point in his career, beginning a 20-year partnership with the label. However, his chart success slowed during the rise of Beatlemania, the British invasion, and the counterculture movement. Even with challenges, he continued to release hits, including For You in 1964, which reached number 6 on the charts. Decca's decision to retain Nelson despite these shifts showed their continued faith in his talent and staying power. Nelson is known as a pioneer of the American country rock genre because of his role in creating the California sound, which he developed alongside artists like Jackson Browne and Linda Ronstadt. His interest in country music began in the mid-1960s, right when the genre was starting to evolve. Although he stayed away from the charts for quite some time, Nelson made his return to the top 40 in 1970. He gained attention with his version of Bob Dylan's She Belongs to Me, which featured talented musicians such as Randy Meisner, who later co-founded the Eagles, and Tom Brumley, a former steel guitarist for Buck Owens. Both of them were members of the Stone Canyon Band at one time. In 1972, Ricky Nelson released Garden Party, his final major attempt at chart success. The song was inspired by a failed performance at a Richard Nader Oldies concert held at Madison Square Garden. Nelson wrote it to express his frustration with the audience's negative reaction to his newer material, which had left him feeling discouraged. Despite previous setbacks, Garden Party became a hit, reaching the top position on the Billboard Adult Contemporary chart and number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100. The track earned gold certification for its success. However, his later releases under MCA Records, which had acquired Decca, achieved mixed results. Some did well, while others struggled. By 1974, Nelson had reached a turning point in his career. This happened around the same time that the Music Corporation of America, MCA, was trying to find a new direction for the former teen idol. Although Nelson made efforts to revive his career, including touring with a new version of the Stone Canyon Band managed by Lindy Getz, he couldn't achieve the level of success he wanted. Eventually, MCA decided to terminate his contract, ending a 7-year chapter of Nelson's musical journey. Nelson's first love was Mary Ann Gabor, whom he met in 1957 when he was only 17. Their connection quickly became personal, and they appeared together in 3 episodes of The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, where Gabor played his on-screen girlfriend. Even though both were young, the attraction between them was real. However, their relationship never developed into something serious. Later, Nelson's attention turned to Laurie Collins, a young country singer who appeared as a guest on the weekly television show Town Hall Party. Collins was just 15 years old at the time. Collins introduced Nelson to major figures in country music, including Johnny Cash and Tex Ritter. Together, Nelson and Collins co-wrote his first song. She later made a surprise appearance on Ozzie and Harriet near the end of the show's run, playing Ricky's girlfriend and reflecting their growing real-life affection. Their hopes for marriage, however, were blocked by their parents' concerns, bringing their relationship to an end. During the Christmas season of 1961, Nelson met Kristen Harmon, the daughter of football legend Tom Harmon and actress Elise Knox, and the two quickly fell in love. They married on April 20, 1963, while Kristen was already pregnant. The event was later referred to as a shotgun wedding. That same year, Kristen became a regular on The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet. The couple had 4 children: Tracy Christine Nelson, Gunnar Eric Nelson, and Matthew Gray Nelson, who were identical twins, and their youngest, Sam Hilliard Nelson. By 1975, the marriage had begun to fall apart, and in October 1977, Kristen filed for divorce. She sought alimony, custody of their children, and a share of their assets, insisting that their property be divided. Although the couple briefly tried to reconcile, Kristen eventually pursued a permanent separation. She wanted Rick to stop touring and focus more on acting, but their differing views on his career caused more conflict. Her excessive drinking and spending habits made the situation even more difficult to manage. Because of this, Rick spent long periods touring, while household staff looked after the children. After the divorce was finalized in December 1982, Nelson's finances were in ruins, with legal expenses surpassing $1 million. Nelson met Helen Blair in 1980 while in Las Vegas. She worked part-time as a model and trained exotic animals. Their romantic relationship began that same year, and by 1982, she had moved in with him. Although Blair served as Nelson's personal assistant and managed his fan club, she was not well received by his family and friends. Nelson had thought about marrying her, but never did. Tragically, Blair was with him during the plane crash that ended his life, though her name was not mentioned at his funeral. Her family requested that she be buried near Nelson, but Harriet Nelson declined the request. The Blair family later received only a small settlement from Nelson's estate through a wrongful death lawsuit, as Blair had not been included in his will. On December 31, 1985, Nelson was traveling from Guntersville, Alabama, to Dallas, Texas, for a New Year's Eve concert. Tragically, he died when his plane crashed while approaching Dallas. The Douglas DC-3 aircraft suffered a heater malfunction that led to a devastating fire. Toxic fumes filled the cabin, trapping the passengers inside. Nelson and all 7 passengers died, though both pilots survived. A mix-up while transferring Nelson's remains from Texas to California caused a delay in the funeral arrangements. Services were finally held at the Church of the Hills in Los Angeles on January 6, 1986. Around 250 mourners attended the ceremony, while about 700 fans gathered outside. Among those present were well-known figures such as Connie Stevens, Angie Dickinson, and Colonel Tom Parker. Nelson was laid to rest privately at Forest Lawn Memorial Park Cemetery in Los Angeles, California. Ricky Nelson left a lasting impact on the music world. He helped shape rock and roll and opened the door for future artists to follow. His music continues to be celebrated, and his legacy remains alive today. Thank you for joining us as we remember the life and legacy of Ricky Nelson. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories about musicians who have touched our hearts. See you in the next one.